It's Drive Time with Holly. Business and consumer news you can trust. I mean, what else are you going to do sitting in traffic?
Yes, it is another edition of Drive Time with Holly. I'm Yaffe.
And I am back. I'm Holly.
Yes, we missed you last week.
You know, between traveling and the fact that Florida's plants are trying to kill me, I was down.
I feel you there.
I was down. I wasn't going to be good to anyone or any microphone. So I appreciate you and David stepping in and doing a great job. Yeah. David
stepped in. He did a great job, but he's not Holly.
Not quite Holly.
This is Drive Time with Holly.
I get it.
but we're definitely glad you're back and you're feeling better. The pollen is unbelievably bad. Yeah. You talked about, before the show we were talking, you washed your car.
Yeah.
And then on the way here, it was once again covered in pollen.
Yeah, I washed my car on the way to the office. I get in the car to head here. All of a sudden, my white car's yellow again. So, I'm going to do my best. I'm going to speak for all the allergy sufferers. We have to go to work. We have to keep living. But I tell you what, if a little rain would help us, and I look forward to this blooming to slow down a little bit.
Yeah, and today we're not going to talk about protecting you from pollen.
Right.
But we are going to talk about protecting your home and your business from, say, some nefarious people that might want to break in or do harm to your home or business.
Yeah, attacks of a different kind. The business of security is what we're going to talk about this evening. And we're joined by some guests who can bring us an expert perspective on not only residential security, but also how to secure your business. And there are lots of facets to that. How to secure your business, how to secure your commercial property, and even private security in the way of personal protection and bodyguards even. So there are a variety of industries that depend on the security industry. Yeah. Some of them we're all very familiar with, and some of them are not. But now in the news, I think we're more aware than ever.
Yes.
For the need for security. It's at least top of mind. And so tonight we're going to talk about some of the things you can do to protect yourself and maybe even some of the common misconceptions.
Yeah, so if you're out there and you either are a business owner or you're a homeowner and you don't have a security system and you're thinking about it, we're going to educate you on the best steps to do that. And if you have any questions for us for the show today, you can call 407-916-5400 or you can text to 23680. And you were saying that we have some special guests with us today. Our first guest sitting right next to me, Mr. Attu Nasim, who is the manager of Insyte Security. How are you today?
Good. How are you?
Doing pretty good. So security, big topic in today's world, big topic in the news, and we wanted to get you on to talk about some steps that a person can take if they want to secure their home.
Residential security. How long have you been in the residential security business?
2007.
Okay. So for over 10 years you've been in this industry. Have things changed from when you first started in security to now, and how have things changed?
Holly, things have changed drastically in 11 years since I first started. Two things that come to my mind right off the bat is the wireless technology out there right now. That allows homeowners to deploy sensors throughout their house easily. And the second thing is landlines are going away. So now we are using cell communications to communicate to the monitoring station. And through technology, 1G, 2G, 3G, and now 4G, the technology has become very reliable. And if for any reason those cell communications cease, we're actually notified at the office and we can dispatch and fix it.
So in the past, my wired system, my hardwired system, was communicating with a monitoring service via a landline, via a phone line. Is that right?
Correct.
And so when the power, if I lost power, was my security system still working?
It depends. If the power went out and the phone was still up and the battery backup which all the systems come with,
Okay.
would hold and dial out for about 15 minutes to an hour. Now there's a battery backup not only in the control panel, but there's also one in the cell radio. So you get a little bit of added time to that. But the biggest reason that people are going to the cell communications is because they don't want to pay the $30, $35 for the telephone line.
So if I have an old wired system in my home and I've lived in that home for 15, 20 years and I'm still paying for monitoring, there's nothing wrong with that. The system is still working, but what you're saying is for people moving into new homes or maybe people moving into a new to them home and they want to consider a residential security system, there are different options. Tell me a little bit about what are the advantages and disadvantages to me either going online, shopping online with Amazon or what have you, or going to a box store and buying a security system in a box. What are the advantages and disadvantages to that?
Well, it's just like any other do-it-yourself project. You've got to feel comfortable with what you're buying and how you're going to go about installing it. And I'm not going to knock those people that want to try, and I encourage anyone that does want to try. However, if you want an expert to install it, that's always an option as well. And the main difference is when you get it from a local security company, you should be buying the entire turnkey package of the installation, the upkeep, the monitoring, and perhaps some other systems that go along with security like cameras and access control.
Yeah, and speaking of cameras, I'm guessing more and more people are adding that as a part of their security features, cameras that monitor the home. In a lot of cases now, you can look at your smartphone and see what's going on in your home when you're not even there. Absolutely.
The cameras are becoming more valuable with the packages being taken from the front steps. Those are driving front door cameras. You don't have to spend a lot of money to get a front door camera. You can spend as little as a few $100s and install a camera video doorbell. And it does give you access on your phone where you can go back and see a little bit of history. The more robust systems are actually monitoring the perimeter of the house, constantly recording or recording on motion only. They are record keeping of the property so that if something does occur, you have a tool to go back and investigate to see what happened.
And I would imagine, too, that there are two different consumers we're talking about here. There are consumers who are comfortable with their own technical abilities and they're willing to take responsibility for how well I do or don't set up the system. And then there are consumers like me who I would much rather trust someone to do it, set it up properly, make sure that it's being monitored, and that I'm not responsible for monitoring because I'm not the type of consumer who has the stomach for if my alarm goes off and I'm self-monitoring. We said before the show started, I would be one of the people who would be laying on the floor just having an absolute panic attack. So I need someone who's going to monitor my security. If I purchase a security system in a box and all the monitoring is directly to my cell phone, if my home is breached or if there is a glass break or if my home is broken into and you're self-monitoring, do you then call the police yourself?
Well, I think that is the concept that they sell. The roughly about $35 a month monitoring fee on up buys you a 24/7, 365 UL certified monitoring station that is guaranteed to answer the phone, look into what occurred based on a zone list that we give them, and dispatch based on instructions that we give them, and dispatch either fire, police, or medical.
Okay.
And I want to give you an opportunity to tell our audience where they can reach Insyte Security if they're thinking about getting personal security. How can they reach you?
So Insyte Security is located in Altamont Springs. Our phone number is 407-831-4666. 4411. My name is Atu, and I'm at extension 105. You could also go to our website, which is www.insyte, and we spell Insyte, INSYTE, security.com. And you can also email us from there, and there's also a form on there. We also have cameras and burglar alarm panels, and you can check out some things yourself. And
if you have any questions for Atu, you can call us at 407-916-5400 or text to 23680. We're also going to talk about business security. If you own a business or commercial property and you want security for that, we're going to get into some details about that as well. You're listening to Drive Time with Holly. I'm Yaffe.
And I'm Holly.
And we will be right back.
Welcome back to Drive Time with Holly. Business and consumer news you can trust.
Yes, welcome back to the show, everyone. This is Drive Time with Holly. I'm Yaffe.
And I'm Holly.
And today we are talking about something that is definitely on everyone's mind. It's been in the news. Unfortunately, there's been some bad news out there, and it's made people think about, how do I make my home more secure, and how do I make my business or nonprofit or anything more secure? So we're talking with some security experts today.
Yeah, I think we've all been forced to take another look at, we don't have to live in a place of fear, but it's forced all of us to take another look at my surroundings, my home, and my business. And as CEO of Better Business Bureau, I have a staff of over 20 people. And so I also have to be worried about their security when they are within the workday.
Yeah.
So
you're responsible for them, and the Better Business Bureau is responsible for them.
Right. So it's not just when we're at home, but we were talking to Atu before the break, and we were talking about home security. Talk to us about what are some of the common misconceptions about home security?
I think the biggest misconception is that you've got to spend a lot of money to make yourself secure. I think it's not as important as how much you spend as it is to what you're doing with that. And even before you introduce technology into any property, and I look at property as property regardless of what it is, the three things that come to my mind is, first, I want to have a good perimeter fence or boundary between me and my property and the outside world. Two, I want to have the locks that are the traditional door locks all working in good order. And three is for nighttime, the lighting. Are the light bulbs changed? Are the lights working? Repairs of lights are a lot cheaper than entire technology systems going in place. Once you've got these three done, especially in the commercial world, I think it's important that we just don't let anyone in the front door anymore, depending on what type of business you are, of course. And so another system that we offer is access control, and that will only allow people that are allowed to come in or people you choose to come in to actually come into the property.
So kind of like a key card access.
Correct.
Yeah. So last night, moved into a new house. I'm cooking dinner. There's a knock at the door. I thought maybe it's a new neighbor. I wasn't expecting anyone. I opened the front door, and it's a gentleman with a laminated ID clipped to his collared shirt. And he said he was there with the security company and wanted to talk to me about my security system. Now, number one, it's dark. Number two, I wasn't expecting you. And number three, the CEO, now he didn't know this, but the CEO of the Better Business Bureau is not going to make a decision on her doorstep. But he put the full court press on about the security of my home, really tried to scare me a little bit, which I'm sure is maybe that's a successful way to sell security systems, but it made me uncomfortable. How often do you send your employees door to door to do a cold call?
We do not send our salespeople door to door to sell alarm systems.
But it's a thing, right? It happens.
It is a thing. And this is what I got to say. One, every business has got a right to try to generate new sales.
Sure.
And some businesses choose to do it that way. Unfortunately, the door-to-door people, themselves need to be vetted.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
Because
he wanted to come in my home.
Exactly.
Oh, wow.
Exactly. And so they need to have a background check done. And unfortunately, when you end up with the larger companies and you've got a successful salesperson, that comes first before that person's background. And that's concerning to me. We interviewed, we thought about it. We were actually ADT dealers for a long time. ADT taught us the door-to-door thing. We did not implement it fully and for very long. The reason that we backed off of that was because the quality of the person that was coming in to interview for these jobs wasn't the quality of person I would want knocking. Through some experiences we had, we pretty much decided that we were going to work with word of mouth and the traditional.
So when it comes to choosing a security provider for your home, choosing the company who's going to come in and provide the expert installation, the monitoring, the customer service, and all the follow-up, I think this is one of the more important, arguably, this is one of the more important investments that you're making, where you want to make sure that you're making a mindful decision and that you're not making a decision out of fear, based on fear, or that you're not making a decision that you feel like you have been rushed into. Better Business Bureau is notorious for telling consumers, if you feel like you're being rushed into a decision, that is a red flag. If the offer is good only tonight only, and it's not going to be good tomorrow, that's a red flag. So if you're considering having home security installed, if you're considering, changing providers, look carefully at who you're going to do business with. Look carefully at their customer service history. Make sure that everything that's important to you, that all those boxes are checked, because when the time comes that you really need this company, you want to make sure that they're there and they're able to really stand up and provide the services.
Yeah, and speaking of that, if you're just joining us and you wanted to know the security expert we're talking to, his name is Mr. Atu Nassim. He's with Insyte Security. So now you know the name behind the voice here and know that Insyte Security does not do the door-to-door thing.
Right.
And if you have a question for him, you can call 407-916-5400 and text to 23680. And I wanted to give you an opportunity once again to give out your website and phone number.
Sure, thank you. It's www.insyte, and we spell Insyte, INSYTE, security.com. And our phone number is 407-831-4411. And I'm at extension 105. And my first name is Atu. And I still pick up the phone and I still talk to my clients every day. So I'd be more than happy to help any way I can.
Let me ask you a question really quickly. This is a selfish question I'm going to ask because I witnessed this myself last night. I closed the door on that gentleman who I understand is just trying to make a living. I closed the door, finished the conversation with him. I noticed my neighbors across the street had their outside, the lights at the driveway. What are those called? Had their exterior lights on. Am I supposed to leave, for security's sake, am I leaving my exterior home lights on all night long?
Yes. LEDs will not take up much amperage, and you should not be able to. You should be able to keep your lights on and not spend a lot of money. With the LED lights, a lidded doorway is a doorway a thief doesn't want to go to. He wants to go to a door where it's dark and he has a little bit of time to open that door, and they will stay away from the lights.
So as you're walking the perimeter of your home, and at night, if you see the dark corners, those are the corners that need the light.
Correct.
And they need it all night long.
Correct.
And is that a motion sensor light, or is that, let's just go ahead and leave the light on all night long?
Yeah, I like photonic, so it's based on how much light is in the atmosphere. It will turn on and turn off by itself.
And you can always make sure that your lights are not pointed in your neighbor's window. Certainly you can angle those lights and things, but I think that there are a lot of people who turn those lights off when it's time to go to bed. So it's almost like they think those lights indicate we're up or we're not up. But really what you're saying is those lights are meant to light your property, and that's for safety and security.
Well, I always thought, too, that with like some of these security lights, you want them to be off and then to turn on with motion, and that tells you that someone or something is there. But you're actually saying it's just much better to leave it on.
I would say that only because the price of the lighting itself has come down with LED lights. The motion was present and installed in the past because they didn't want to leave a light on all night. And if someone walked up, the lights would go on. But now with the cost so low, the LED lights really illuminate the house. And actually, you can incorporate it into some domestic lighting for the house and make it look nice.
Oh, that's good advice for our audience. So if you have any questions for Atu, you can call 407-916-5400. You can also text to 23680. We've been talking a lot about home security. We are going to get into more business security, commercial security. That's definitely a topic on mine, especially here in Central Florida. So we'll talk to another security expert on that very thing, and we'll also take your calls and texts as well. You are listening to Drive Time with Holly. I'm Yaffe.
And I'm Holly.
And we will be right back.
Welcome back to Drive Time with Holly. Business and consumer news you can trust.
Yes, this is another edition of Drive Time with Holly. I'm Yaffe.
And I'm Holly.
And unfortunately, one of the big topics in the news, especially in Orlando, is wanting to secure your place of business, or maybe a school, or maybe a nightclub. And, this is something that a lot of businesses that probably weren't thinking about before, it's on top of mind right now. They're thinking about it, and they're wanting to hire security and put measures in to make sure their customers are safe and their employees are safe. So we're going to talk with an expert on that right now.
Yeah, I think, even as recently as only a few years ago, the expense of security was maybe one of those line items where you just opted to save money. Yeah. And you felt like, we've got this secured. Maybe I have an alarm system for my business, and that's good enough. And now we find that businesses more and more deciding that they have a responsibility to their customers, they have a responsibility to their staff, and to their community to protect their space. And it's you need to know where to go. You need to know what type of professional can help me start this conversation without scaring the daylights out of me.
Yeah, so if you're a business owner, we always give great advice for business owners on this show about many different topics, and security is no different. And we have an expert on that with us right now. Her name is Chris Harris. She's with the Harris Group Security. They offer armed, unarmed security services for a wide variety of clients. Sunrail's one of them, Hard Rock, schools, businesses, stuff like that. So welcome to the show, Chris.
Hi, thank you very much.
So tell us, we talked about, obviously security for your home is something that has been popular, has been common for, years and years that people have had home security. It seems like, though, recently, businesses have decided that maybe a security system or an alarm system isn't quite good enough. Can you talk a little bit about what typically happens, or what causes a business owner to come to the conclusion that, even though I'm not, we've seen nightclubs have bouncers, and that's been forever. But now you see much more common businesses or private schools or, places of worship now are hiring armed security. How have people gotten to that place? Is it preventative or is it fear-based?
I basically mostly like the churches and the businesses that we work for are trying to be proactive instead of reactive. Mm-hmm. Is it based out of fear? No, I think they're taking the value of their parishioners in account, the safety of their customers in account, the safety of the employers and the employees. I think it's to be more proactive because of what's going on in the world today.
Right. And do you find that do you offer armed and unarmed security, or only armed?
No, we do both. We do unarmed and armed security.
And what would be the reasons for one and not the other?
It depends on, a lot of people are afraid of the gun. Not going to lie. You go inside, you go to certain businesses, a lot of people do not want to see the presence of a gun on property full time. Then there's other companies who are like, no, we're going strictly armed because we want that presence. We want that people to know that we are an armed site. So it just depends on the business and how they most businesses take a consensus of if they want armed and unarmed, but most people go with armed. So we have very few sites that are unarmed.
Okay. And so if I were to hire your business to come onto my property, to come to my place of business, does it start with a security assessment, or do you have an a la carte menu of services and you'll give me what I ask for, or do you try to educate the business owner as to, maybe where you could use some improvements? Maybe one armed security guard during the hours of this to that. Is it going to really necessarily solve all your issues or solve your concerns? Here are some other options you may want to think about. I guess what I'm asking is, I'm sure every business owner doesn't really know what they need.
Yep.
Is that a part of the service that you provide?
Yes. So what we do is, when we first initially go on scene and we get hired, we'll do a site assessment, and we'll walk around with the owner or whoever, the manager, and we'll do a site assessment and say, this is what you need to protect yourself, your business, your employees, and also to risk liability for anything from an active shooter to fire to, disarray employees. We do the whole entire thing. And then we write an SOP for that specific site.
And SOP stands for?
Standard Operating Procedures.
Okay.
And that's for our guards. And then we send a certain group of gentlemen or ladies to that site to work that site. So you're not sporadically getting like Tom today, Steve tomorrow, Joe who's never worked this site the following day. You have a team on your site. And that way they get to know the site. They get to know the employees. They get to know who's coming and going. So you have a certain group. And that's how we run our business. Some companies run it totally different than that. But we have a team that goes specifically to your site and will work that site. And that is your team.
Right.
Speaking of your team, I'm guessing when you're hiring people to be guards, it's a pretty rigorous process to make sure that they are going to be good employees and good guards for your company. Tell us a little bit about that.
So we all our employees are ex-military or ex-law enforcement. That's one of our biggest things. They all know how to stand a post. They all know how to do their job. Everybody's background checked. We do more training than most sheriff's departments and most police departments because we are on the front lines. And we are the first ones that are going to be there before the police officers. So we do a lot more firearms trainings. We do a lot of hand-to-hand trainings. We do a lot of defensive tactics because we are going to be the first lines before law enforcement even gets there.
With your employees?
Yeah, with my employees.
Right. And so, I think that's really important that the group of security that you're sending to my site, I'm going to get to know their name. They're going to know the employees' names. They're going to know the property. They know what looks right, what doesn't look right, what doors are supposed to be open, what doors are not supposed to be open. Most often, are businesses hiring security guard services for hours of operation or round the clock?
It depends on the business. Again, if it's going to be such as a nightclub where we're at the high volume from anywhere from 9 to 3 a.m. And that's wand searching, bag searching, making sure nothing comes into the club. If it's a business such as like the Hard Rock Daytona, where they're 24 hours. Right. Because there's high volume there all the time. It just depends on the business and the need of what the business wants.
Right. Now, what, and this is, but it is security related for employees. If an employee has a concealed weapons permit and they are coming to their place of work, is that always okay?
It depends on the business. What we suggest with every business is that they make sure they have a register, like who is carrying a firearm property. Because what happens when we're there, say we're at one of our churches, and you have all these people fluxed in with like concealed weapons, they don't know where to sit. They don't know who we are to make sure that if something, God forbid, happens inside the church, everybody's jumping up with a firearm. So what we do is we come in and train the people who have concealed weapon, who have registered with the business, and we train them where to sit, what to do, and what to look out for in case anything should happen if there is an active shooter or anything like that.
And I think, too, it's important to say that even if you have a concealed weapons permit, it's important that you check with your employer. And it's important that you check with your handbook.
Yeah.
Because there are some places of business who are going to allow it, and there are some who are not going to allow it.
And a lot of businesses do allow it as long as you register, like, hey, I am carrying a firearm. And then if they are, they come meet with us, like at the synagogues when we do the synagogue work. A lot of the members of the synagogues we hold classes for, and that's part of our services. That's not an additional fee. We don't add extra costs. We teach them to help us in case of anything, God forbid, happens. So like at the synagogues, we teach them certain things of how to escape, active shooter training, what to look out for. Always report something suspicious. Always come tell us. The more eyes, the better.
Right.
So it's up to the business if they really want to register. Like for here, if everybody had a firearm just in this room, I mean, I wouldn't know if you were carrying,
right,
and you wouldn't know if I was carrying,
right.
So it's
helpful to know to like you said, to have a register, especially if you're going to a workplace every day.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's something your employer allows, it's helpful for everyone involved to know who's who and what's what, so that, like you said, if God forbid something goes down, we know what we have on property.
Yep. Yeah. And also, too, it's an asset to us. It's just another person that can help us prevent something from further going on. And if so, we train them and we get them prepared for anything that's going to happen. It's just more people that have our backs.
We are talking with Chris Harris, who's with the Harris Group Security. If you have any questions for Chris, you can call 407-916-5400, or you can text to 23680. Getting a lot of important information about securing your business, securing your property. We're going to continue this conversation in a moment. You're listening to Drive Time with Holly. I'm Yaffe.
And I'm Holly.
And we will be right back.
Let's be better consumers. You're listening to Drive Time with Holly. Holly.
Welcome back to the show, everyone. This is Drive Time with Holly. I'm Yaffe.
And I'm Holly.
And I've learned a lot in this show because security is on top of mind for a lot of people out there, especially in Florida.
Yeah.
And dealing with personal security, your home, but also your business or possibly even a school. And we've been talking with our experts about that very thing tonight.
Yeah. And, both of our experts, both coming from the residential security side of things and then also coming from the commercial or the business side of security, they've both said the same thing in different ways, which is there's no need to be afraid. You need to be prepared.
Yeah. Be proactive.
Be proactive. And so I think companies who use scare tactics, they tried
to do to you.
Like they tried to do to me. That may have its place and that may be effective in some situations, but it's not necessary. I think that you can find professionals to provide the services that you need so that you can be proactive and that you can be prepared without being afraid. Because no one wants to come to work every day. No one wants to come home every night and live in a constant state of fear, knowing or always being top of mind that I'm depending on my security system or I'm depending on my armed guard to keep me safe. That's not really the case, but they're there in case we need them.
And in the last segment, we were talking a lot about that with Chris Harris, who's with the Harris Group Security. And Chris, I wanted to give you an opportunity to tell our audience, if anyone out there in our audience is a business owner and is thinking of hiring a security group like yours, how can they reach you?
They can reach us at 407-949-1278, or they can reach us at theharrisgp@gmail.com.
And we will have information for both Insyte and for the Harris Group on our social media, and you can also go to drivetimeholly.com, and we will post all that information there so that if you haven't been able to grab it while you're in the car, that you'll be able to get to it later. I'd like to ask both of our guests how, I'm sure, because you both specialize in very different things, but they seem to kind of complement each other. How does a residential security or even a commercial security system and, a guard service or this type of services that the Harris Group provides, how do those work together?
Well, I think the key thing with the resources on the cameras and the emergency buttons is a quicker response. So you can quickly pull up, say, for instance, something happened where they got robbed or somebody broke into a room or something happened. We're able to pull up an image quicker and get it out to law enforcement a lot quicker. Also, too, there's also a lot of panic buttons that come with a lot of the systems. So the panic buttons can get also law enforcement to respond quicker to the scene, and that benefits us.
And do you find that now in the same conversation that you're having with a homeowner about a security system, you're having a conversation about cameras? 10 years ago, 20 years ago, if you had a home security system, that was really very expensive, high-tech security. And now it seems like if you've got a security system, especially if it's a newer one, we would almost assume that you might have some cameras. Is it as prevalent as I assume that it is?
Holly, the market right now is very good for this equipment because of the price point drop. These systems are very affordable, and they're not as expensive as you think. The big box stores have got the boxes sitting in their stores. They're kind of pushing the market. We don't offer the retail cameras that the big box stores do. However, it does generate a buzz and a lot of questions, and those people are calling us, and we are installing a lot of systems right now.
And one thing that Chris mentioned was if you are a business and you have a security system installed and you have cameras, as a business owner, I may think I know what areas of my property I want you to be watching cameras. But to your point, someone who is trained may want to see different parts of the property for different strategic reasons.
Yeah, because not everybody, it's different because I look for it as a former law enforcement officer of how I have to solve the crime. So you may think it's okay to have the stairwells. Well, I'm only going to get the back of somebody's head if you have this door of the stairwell because that's the way they're leaving. So I need to position the cameras to where I get a face view.
Right.
So I look at the cameras as, okay, we need to get a face recognition and face view instead of the back of somebody's head, where some business owners place it where it's the back of the head.
Right.
That does no good.
Chris, we talked a lot with you about you do security for businesses, and they seem to hire your firm full-time. You have guards there full-time. Do you also do security maybe for an event? Per event?
Yeah, we do a lot of event security. We do every time Pulse has an event for their anniversary. We do Pulse events. We do carnivals, like for the churches and the synagogues. Anytime they have an outside event, we did Bike Week for a long time, but that got a little taxing. So we maintained Main Street for a long time.
Wow.
Yeah, so it gets a little taxing on events. But
and I'm guessing it's just not an entirely different process, but a different process when you're doing an event for securing a business full time.
Oh, it's a way different process, and the security level is a little bit higher than if we have the normal team at your one site. And we also do a lot of executive protection too. So that's one of our biggest accounts is that we do walk around, with celebrities, and we do take care of that. And that's a totally different breed too of security that's required and unfortunately needed.
Yeah.
But the events, that's a whole nother Oprah story.
Now, when you have an event and you have security come to the event, is that sometimes required by insurance, or is that a nice to have kind of thing?
Well, what's the difference between right now is between us and a lot of the events have law enforcement there, but to add extra security, they can have our guards, 2 guards for the price of 1. So it's basically they want more presence of armed security there.
Right.
And that's why they're hiring more of us.
Do you find with events that they want armed security more than unarmed security? Or is there, yeah.
Oh, yeah. No doubt about it. And the thing is that what's great about it is everybody thanks us as they leave. They thank us for being there. They thank you for, a couple of the clubs that we do at night. They thank you. They're not bothered that we have to do bag searches. They're not bothered that we're standing there armed. They thank us every time they leave. So it's a blessing for us.
Yeah, it's like a security system. It's one of those things that you like knowing it's there, and you also like forgetting about it.
Yeah. At first, there was some hesitations at some of the churches and the synagogues. Like, what are you doing? What are you doing? And now all of a sudden, now they're walking me. I was reserved, and now I was hesitant. But you know what? Thank you. I feel better coming.
And I really want to thank both of you for coming on today. We've been talking with Chris Harris of the Harris Group Security and Atu Nassim, who's with Insyte Security, talking about personal security and business security. If you want to find out more information on this, just go to our social media page. You can drivetimewithholly.com or just like us on Facebook at Drive Time with Holly. You've been listening to Drive Time with Holly. I'm Yaffe.
And I'm Holly.
And we'll catch you guys next time.